Well, as the Elder Myers in this morning's talks, I think it's only fitting I have the last word, so thank you, Reverend Dennis. On our bedside table is an old book that's been used so much it's falling apart at the seams. For over 35 years, we've read passages from it, almost like a daily devotional. It was written by the Reverend Dr. Ernest Fitzgerald. He was a Methodist minister in North Carolina. And it happened to be in an airline magazine every month, a little article. And as my son said, I traveled a lot in my early days. So I would read these and bring them home, and Dr. Fitzgerald finally put it into a book. So there's one that I thought about that I would read just a little vignette out of to start my talk. It goes, in the folklore of the Southland, there is a story about a farmer who took a wagon of cotton to the cotton gin to be sold. While the gin owner was busy with the scales, the farmer stepped on the scales and fraudulently added his weight to that of his cotton. Gin owner saw him but said nothing till he paid the farmer. The check was made for all that the scales measured. John, said the gin owner to the farmer, "You sold yourself today for $1.37. Integrity. Wikipedia defines it as a concept of consistency of actions, values, methods, and principles. I learned integrity from three men of great influence in my life during my childhood and early adulthood: my father, my grandfather, and my father-in-law. All three men of integrity, faith, and quiet strength. You see, these men taught by their actions the meaning of doing and choosing the right course, especially when no one is looking. Their actions spoke more than any words could. Their struggles and the faithful way they handled them were examples of behavior that I learned as a young boy and young man. Also learned that having integrity doesn't mean it's easy for you. My dad had an alcohol problem and joined AA when I was a young boy. And I remember his determination to overcome his addiction, but it also reaffirmed his belief in the value of every human life. Occasionally, you see, he was called out at night to find a fellow AA member who had fallen off the wagon and needed help getting back on track. He was a businessman tested by practices that were prevalent during the 50s and 60s. If you need a reference, see the popular series Mad Men, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He resisted these temptations and yet owned and ran a successful business. He was a community leader during a time of great social change, and through his quiet force of personality, demonstrated a sense of fairness for all. He was a husband who shared a marriage with my mother that lasted a lifetime, starting as newlyweds in the tumultuous years of the Depression. He was a father of 6 who, during his busy schedule, found time to do things with each of us. These characteristics and more were the foundation of a value system passed on in our family and have had great impact on my life, sometimes in very unexpected times and places. As I spent most of my career in senior executive positions with large organizations, I had the opportunity to see the value of integrity and view how many others handled situations well, if I can separate my pages here. In times of great moral pressure. Pressures that can bend a person's perspective and lead to decisions that, while legal, were ethically questionable and hurtful. I saw a supplier who had operated with a company I was with for years without an updated agreement, having equipment on long-term lease that he fully expected to be paid for returned without notice or warning or concern for past loyalty. I've seen projects go wrong and blaming others to deflect one's own decision-making and responsibility, and the list goes on. While I've certainly made mistakes, the presence of integrity always made me take responsibility and accountability for my actions and those done on my watch. Little did I know how these actions would play such a significant role in my life when in 2010, I had an unexpected change in my career, not one that I had asked for, which led me to start my own business. After a month of calling on customers I had previously worked with, I had several that started using our services, and this initial and continued success was best summed up by a buyer at Kimball International when he said, "Greg, I don't know a thing about the firm your agency represents, but we know you. And if you say our products will be handled safely and delivered on time, we trust you to make that happen. Let's get a contract in place." I came home and told Nancy I was taken aback, or in Lewis's words, gobstruck, by how things come around when you try to do the right things right throughout your career and your life. Values, as with our faith also, are only one generation from extinction, as one of our senior ministers in a former church said years ago. Integrity. Thank you, Dad. And to you, pass it on, as each of you are worth far more than $1.37.